Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to talk about episode 2, which was a fun time, given that yesterday Chappelle and I said, wow, I guess this is Brains' to lose because no one could be crazier than Brawn. And then Brains were like, hold my chaos. And here we are, having to talk through all of that. And to do that, I have such a great co host. He'll be here with me in the middle episode of every week, which is so exciting, taking a small break from everything going on with the traders. It is the great Pooya. Pooya, thank you for being here.
I am happy to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to join you this season to cover Australian Survivor. I famously have been on the record as of last year saying that my favorite season of Survivor, period, is Australian Survivor Titan vs. Rebels. I've been very clear. That's my number one favorite season of all time. And let me tell you, I feel like I'm almost willing to count this as part of the streak continues for Titans vs. Rebels because so far we're 2 for 2 on good episodes here. So I'm happy.
True. Yeah, it's a high bar to clear, to be fair, for the season, given it's going up against your favorite season of all time. That's what it's coming after. But yeah, I mean, 2 massive episodes. I guess, coming from the traders and taking a break from your usual traders coverage, you've brought some of the chaos because having watched US traders at the moment with people just saying things to other people's faces, and this is reality TV right now. Back in our day, maybe people who didn't used to just say things. Like at this tribal council, was there any subterfuge? Did any secret remain intact? Or was every single thing we know about this tribe aired like it was some sort of group therapy when it is not that?
Yeah, I don't understand if they were given truth serum at some point this season, because we are now 2 for 2 of people on either tribe choosing to just tell everyone everything and be like, okay, and now we proceed with everyone knowing everything. We had confessionals in this episode. We had someone confessing to flipping on, like, I don't get it. I feel like, what happened to subtlety? What happened to secrecy? Listen, I'm all for truth, right? Honesty is a good policy. But is it always the best policy? I don't think so.
Well, I actually have a theory around this, right? After 2 episodes of watching people, wear their idol on the mat to even the other tribe, let alone their own tribe, and watching people at tribal council say everything to each other, and watching Kent give his confessionals to like AJ, like the stuff about like the poison and the viper, whatever his stuff is. He's like telling AJ, I'm like, I'm like, some of the stuff is for the confessional. I think it's so interesting that there's like this culture that's been created in Australian Survivor by like a George and, followed on by like, your brash players like a Kirby, for example. And it works, sometimes well for the unicorns like the Georges and the Kirbys. And actually sometimes isn't. I still like criticize the moves from the Georges and the Kirbys. But I think that there are some people who've never watched the show who see like 1 season or 2 and it's those seasons. So like, oh, I guess we just say things to each other's faces. I guess we just tell people on the other mat that we have hostages at a swap, as an example. And then there are people who, to be fair, it's being led this season, I think, by fans who do watch a lot of the show. But this is just where the culture is right now. And in Australian Survivor, there's more to play for. There are other stakes other than winning, which is screen time, not getting like purpled out of the show completely. There's returnee opportunities way more than in the US. So I think people are like, and I think the way they cast as well is just like these really brash players, and it's gotten us to now we're like at the peak of that. And that's why I think we're a bit confused of like, why are you saying that to someone? Maybe you just don't just say every thought in your head.
I also am someone who I subscribe to the idea that every cast, once they get on the beach or in the house, whatever show, the castle, whatever show they're on, I feel like that cast builds a culture and a norm to the game they're playing, and then it becomes commonplace. Now, am I willing to say that this is just the norm for this season? No, that would be ridiculous. It's been 2 days. You do not have a culture set within 2 days of being here. But then it is wild to see that both beaches, Shannon, have been hit with bouts of honesty, bouts of malicious behavior. Oh my God, some of these confessionals are a little too much. How are we? How are we still in the beginning? Like it almost feels like this is how it feels to me. Is if we brought someone in, Shannon, and we said, "Hey, come watch Australian Survivor with us. We're just about to start the season." I bet you could convince them that we threw them into episode 10. Some of the way people are behaving is episode 10 behavior, not episode 1 and 2 behavior.
Yeah. Well, that's what you say. It's a bit too early to set the culture. But I think when the culture is this extreme, it's like maybe it will follow this the whole time. And obviously, this was, a much easy, it wasn't the plurality vote we got in episode 1. It was a 10-2, but it's so fractured now. And I think I was just so shocked in how much was coming out from all of these players at Tribal Council. I think that's the thing that really got me. So, I mean, to talk about some of this, let's start with Indy, who obviously is the victim of this episode. I think I want to talk it through, but like largely her own victim. And it was so obvious, like, because Chekhov's Women's Alliance, it is a rule. I did not make the rule. It is a truism in life that if a women's alliance is mentioned in the first act, a woman will go home in the third. I can't, it's just true. And the second that Indy was like pushing against it, before they'd even lost the challenge, I wrote down, oh, Indy is so gone. So, I mean, I struggle with Indy because I want to give a little bit of credit to the fact that, like, she says in her pregame bio, she's like part of the LGBT community. She's, she's Muslim, she's Black, she's like an extreme minority on Australian Survivor that is not racially diverse and is not, and this is why we have the diversity initiative in the US to try and, have people like not targeted when like equals like a little bit more. But like, I also think that like she did this to herself, but then I wonder how much plays out on her own like fair insecurities about feeling like an outsider and then pushing against that. Like, do you have a sense of like, can we just give her 100% blame when it's clearly so bad, or should we give some leeway here?
It's tough because I feel like if you're looking at it on a surface level, yes, you give her 100% of the blame. However, when you dig in a little deeper, you kind of see the type of person Indy is laying out to be, bit of a shot caller. Someone who likens themselves to be a leader in control is now put in a situation where it's like, okay, so you're not only not in control, you're kind of the fifth wheel here that we're adding in.
Yeah.
See, right.
Well,
And
Allie was
also,
like montaged in, but it seems like she was brought in before her.
Yeah. And it was also like, yeah, and not everyone's gonna get their say, even if you want to pipe up for the next one. But like right now, this is what's happening. You just got to be cool with it. I think that ultimately for Indy, this goes against how Indy plays. At least that's the read I have. So then for Indy, it was like, I'm not going to be the bottom of this group. There's no way I'm going to let that happen. I'm going to switch it on its head. The problem is, it almost felt like she went to go switch it into a group where she would have been down there anyway. Especially for the first vote. I'm like, yo, just let them have what they want for the first vote and then like look at it later. We've seen, Survivor history, whether AU or US, the road has plenty of people who don't start off top on the top in the beginning and then by the end are the last one standing.
Yeah, that's actually probably better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, because everyone's mad at each other. People are looking at other people. You're kind of just chilling in the middle. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So,
I think,
but
yeah,
also,
I mean, yeah.
One more thing. I cannot legally blame her or give 100% to Indy because at the end of the day, Indy just so happened to be the only other person in this big ass cast of 24 people to have the letters N and D in their name. So, going first and second, Candy, Indy. I'm sorry. The universe decides the fate. I have no say in it.
I did not realize that it was an NDY massacre happening here.
Yeah, exactly. It was not looking good. And I've looked at everyone else. I think everyone else should be secure now. So
okay, thank God. That was like a real epidemic. I think like with Indy, like, was she the last in this group? She was. Did she have reason to be insecure about that? Like, I can see that. No one wants to be last in. And again, like they said, you weren't socially connecting. Some of that's on her own making. Again, we have to look at demographics and how that's so hard. Like, the social game's not just like a plain thing.
1,000%.
Yeah, we all come in with those biases, insecurities, like, all a product of society. I just want to like put that out there. But I think she was more in than she realized. Like, as an example, when we see all the women talk, I think it was all other 5 women talk without her. Maybe she sees something like that happening, but we hear them say, and we need to tell Indy. So I think she like was last in, but was truly in. But all the insecurities of being last in made her feel like she was less in than she was. Some of that was fair. Some of that was the wrong read. Some of it is, I see why you get that idea, but you're wrong about it. But then the thing is, as well, is firstly, even if you're last in, or even if you're kind of half in, that does really feel like a future problem. As we've said, like, just hold on. That could be the best possible space to be. And, holding on to a swap got a lot of fodder for the next few votes, and just keep working on that relationship. Like, you're buying time. Like, I think all of that is good. And the second thing is, if you don't feel that you're in enough, what is the alternative? Like, the alternative is just to bond. Or to try cut them, which she does try to do, but there's not even a real group there, and she does it terribly. And as you said, she's even further down in that group. And the thing you definitely don't do is like, I just really don't feel like you got, like, I kind of felt like being like when you're kind of like maybe in a new relationship. I say as someone 12 years into a relationship, so I can't really relate, but it's like, I just don't really feel like either like dump him or like try and improve the relationship, but just like guilting them is not going to help the situation,
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I feel like the other part is, to me, from where I was standing, Indy clearly says and felt like, yeah, it's hard to believe that had I not said anything, I wouldn't be a part of this group. I feel like it was one of those where it's like, I accidentally stumbled onto y'all and now you invited me to the hangout. That's how it felt, which I feel like that is tough, because as someone who, has lived insecurely in his life, sometimes you can't help but feel like, yeah, but would I have gotten the invite to this party if I hadn't pushed a little, because I didn't get the invite authentically, organically, whatever. So I think that's part of it. I think for me, the other part, and this is the harder part, is that with a game like Australian Survivor, with how long the season is, how big each tribe is, if I'm 6th out of 12, that means, and I'm quote unquote on the bottom, that means that there's 5 other people that need to go before I go, right?
Yeah, that
That's
means there's an
plenty.
entire new era tribe below you. Like, that's
That
great.
that's plenty of time to move myself up the power rankings in the group and to recoup, figure out, do new things. That's an eternity. That legitimately, what you just said, that is a whole season of Survivor to figure it out. So it ain't that bad again for the first vote, because I think the alternative was you went to Rich, and it's not like there's another group of 5 or 6 there. This is now fractured groups, smaller groups, that you would need to work so much harder to figure out how to tie them all together.
Yeah,
So
it was her best bet, and it was a pretty good bet. And even though she thought it was worse than it was, even that, like, I think was okay, and like gave her time and was pretty good. I mean, look, you don't have to sell me on being insecure, okay? No one's more insecure than I am, okay? And I challenge anyone to be more insecure than I am, even Indy in this. Like, I get you, but again, when you're playing a game, like a social game, maybe we don't verbalize it. There is like, this cast needs to know that you don't have to verbalize every thought that comes into your head. Like, just wrestle with it on the inside is what I would say. Yeah. That's my advice on that.
Deal with it without sharing it with people.
Yeah. Talk about it in the confessional. That's the therapy, not tribal, not to the tribe mates. It's in confessional. But it was interesting as well, because we see that she suffers for how, I don't think it would have gone well anyway. She clearly doesn't have the relationship basis to go to someone like a Rich, but it was interesting as well that she suffered for how badly she did that and for that language, because yesterday Chappelle and I were like, wow, like when Nash went to Kate and Morgan, he spoke so badly to them, and yet it worked, which is not really how you usually see things play out. And yet she, again, like, did actively threaten them and did not come to them and like, hey, I really want to work with you guys. Like, let's really build. Like, it wasn't about that. And even like Max doesn't even believe her from the jump. So, and they immediately out her. There's no relationship there, and she builds it so badly. So that was definitely a worse option than whatever like she thinks she had.
It's extremely tough because Indy comes in with this like, oh my God, they'll be here any minute. Let me quickly tell you energy. But then is also looking to get celebrated for doing this, and is also like, I will end you. This ruins my game for telling you. I will end you if you tell anybody else. So at that point, it feels like, okay, now were you just nervous, like putting a lie together? Was it falling apart? Are you threatening? Like, I think the delivery was way too intense, especially this early in the game. And what the information you're giving Rich is, hey, people that you feel like you're good with are saying your name. And you don't have that kind of relationship with Rich, by where I'm like, from what we've seen, to be sharing that with him and for him to like be sold on it. So you have to definitely do it with a little bit of maybe like sensitive hands. I don't know what the right verbiage, but this is a lot, and I think that it is still baffling to me, and maybe this is something that needs to be looked at further, because some of the people on this tribe are definitely worse than than Indy, I think,
I
in some of
mean,
the things they're
yeah,
saying. So I
it's a
don't know
little bit much.
how. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I feel like Indy kind of she was the messenger, and then both sides shot the messenger. You know what I mean? Like, they gave her the info, she gave it to him. He's mad, they're mad. India's collateral damage, especially when you consider the fact that some other stuff gets brought up at tribal and there's just not enough time to look at maybe getting rid of that person. That's not going to happen here.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about like the Kents of the world, who I think you're referring to. I mean, you don't want to be in competition with Kent for like how you're playing. I think that that already is like a probably a bit of a loss. I do think with Indy, it's about the fact that she's not built that social capital. Like, I always say, like, you build the social capital and you wield it strategically. That's how you
Mhm.
make a move. Like, hey, well, I want to work with you. Let's do that. And the reason they could shoot the messengers because she was expendable to both sides, and she made herself that
Right.
way to the women, and she never built herself up to being anything, of value to the men. So at that point, you think you have the leverage because you're giving Rich this information, but because you're so socially outcast and actually like don't like you like the only social capital you have is with the women. So now that you're like burning that, actually you don't have that much leverage. And I think she came in thinking she had a position of leverage, and I think thinking she was giving him that he should be thankful to her. And if anything, she actually was like kind of on the back foot and didn't realize like how much she needed help at that point. And she needed them clearly because she goes home for that. But what I do think is really interesting is what it does for Laura. Because at first I kind of felt like, Laura gets 6 Chizzy points yesterday, and I thought, okay, like she escapes okay. At first, I think I was just clinging on to, and like especially like sitting with it, I'm like, this went so badly for Laura. Because for me, it's the sense that when she goes to them and she's trying to save Rich, she's like, I don't care if Rich goes, but I have these concerns, and concerns that made like no sense. Like, oh no, like they'll have numbers, which they won't. I'm trying to look, what did she say? Or what if it doesn't work, but like it should work? I mean, I guess without Indy, ironically, it wouldn't have, but like, oh, we need him to feel safe. Like he'll be gone. Like none of
Yeah,
those
he
things
doesn't need
make sense.
to feel safe
Yeah.
if he's gone.
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense.
Exactly. So, but then to be outed as with the VBs. Do you have Victoria Bitter? Do you have VB beer in America or Canada?
I will have to look it up. I can tell you this, I don't think I've drank it before.
Me neither. I don't think I've ever drank beer ever.
Oh, beer period ever.
No, I don't think so. Maybe like a sip. It's not for
Oh,
me.
wow.
It's not mine.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
seen this beer, but I've seen the color scheme of this beer on other beers, maybe.
All right. That's very
Yeah, but
specific.
it's got the
Yeah.
Heineken colors, the green, red, and what? Yeah. So now I've
Oh,
never had the VB, but
yeah.
hey, sounds like it's worth fighting for, is what I'm learning
Yeah.
here.
Well, they're from Victoria, so they're the Victoria Bitters. And the fact that he outs that at tribal council, and then it's like, oh, now I see why you had all these issues with Rich that made no sense. I'm like, I actually think this is like a terrible spot for Laura right now.
I now listen, do I think that amongst this group, Laura can clean it back up? Potentially, yes. I don't think that was a great lie. I think that Laura could be at a crossroads of you got to pick one or the other. I don't know if both groups are going to be just like, yeah, you can keep your side piece. I don't know if that's going to happen. So we'll see. But I also would have given Laura the full chizzy last night. So, good to know. Good to know where that
Yeah.
I'm in parallel with you and Chappelle right now.
Yeah. I
Or
know what
was.
Laura needs. Yeah. Well, Laura needs to like cut Rich. I think that's the thing for me, is because I was thinking like, okay, so the problem with the women, it looks like they'll probably reconvene. You can't spell reconvene
Mhm.
without coven. So we're gonna get back to that. It seems like
Nice.
there's just like one shot of them in the next time on like holding hands and like a coven formation. So I kind of feel
Yes.
like that's their priority. She says that's their priority. So I was like, are they gonna like try give up like some neutral ground, like a Kent as an example, and then like you obviously have to like pull in like a majority, like a Miles or something, which I think, given how fractured the men are, should be fine. But then it's like, yeah,
Easy.
do they go for like a neutral option, or do they kind of give each other like sacrifices? But now I think not just for the fact that like Karen and like the others want to get rid of Rich. I think best for Laura's game to cut Rich, because she's been like caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I think she should just start again as like a gesture of goodwill. It looks so bad. And like Rich is not a good ally for her. He is already, like, oh, we'll make them think we're using us, which I didn't love. Now he probably doesn't trust her because while she was trying to save him, like from his perspective, his name's out there and his ally didn't tell him at all. Indy told him. And then he outed it at tribal council. So like how useful is Rich at this point? So I think if she just cuts Rich now, start again, sorry guys, move on. I think it's salvageable, but I think like Rich should go.
There's plenty of options on that beach for you to make a brand new secret away from the women's alliance if you want. And as long as that person isn't Kent, I like your odds and some of the options you have on the board here. I agree. I think at this point, if the group says Rich's name again, just give them Rich. Do not fight it again, because now you'd be fighting it with
like actively.
Yeah, maybe not too much. Maybe if you over push, they're like, huh, why suddenly you want to switch? Oh, because everything he's saying is valid, huh? You're doing the double dip. Oh, you got caught. Okay, can we even trust you moving forward? Let's get rid of Rich and you next. Let's not do that. So don't oversell. I think just be like, listen, if he goes, whatever. It's fine.
I think it's just so unfortunate that like he outed a named alliance. Like that's so unfortunate, like IP notwithstanding, the fact that it was good advertising. I don't know.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Like, can you do this? Like, can you be the Victoria Bitters Alliance?
Yeah, could you be like the Nesquik Alliance? Like what's the level, like the Tim Tam Alliance? Like what's the level of like branding that we can give to our alliances? But yeah, at the point where he's given that up, you're right in that like she can't be sus anymore, right? Like she's already kind of like in too deep. But I do agree, like you guys do what you want, and they'll probably say they want Rich, and you'll be like, that is fine. And I think we just, pretend never that like this never happened and that we like never speak of it ever again. I think that's the way to go with that.
Yep, I think that is perfectly fine with me as well.
Yeah, it was interesting because I thought that the Miles versus Rich discussion was interesting, and I thought there was an argument for her there that she wasn't really making. Like as we said, the arguments didn't make sense, but I think the argument that you make is like they were going to go for a like plurality vote, which by the way, 2 episodes in, 2 plurality votes again in the Brains V Brawn style. I'm loving it. But is it what you want to do socially on day 5 of a 47-day game? Because they thought obviously like the men are voting for Miles is voting for someone else. It's like a 6-5-1 probably, and they're 6 wins out. And I think the conversation, even like Indy had this conversation about like, well, then we're going to have to make good with the men. And I think like Ali was very much like, we will, we'll have the power, we'll do it. But I think the argument should have been, and for me, the argument that actually is interesting in this decision is like, but why should we have to? Like, why should we put off multiple people? Maybe we should just keep it cohesive. If it's an 11-1 Miles vote, then like no one's upset, and we do have the majority, and they don't even know it. So also we have the subterfuge that no one seems to want anymore, and we haven't like upset people. And I actually think that there is an argument there. Like, where did you see when it was like Rich v Miles for the women?
I just felt like the problem is that Miles's name was always there as a get out of jail free card, right? If anything feels a little sticky, if this person's name suddenly is not, we're not going to have the votes here, or we're not going to want to do this, we're going to pivot here. Okay, safety key, plan B, plan C is just stick it on Miles because we know there's votes there. We can hide in that group and move on. And I think that it was so unfortunate. But then, and I don't know, Shannon, is this the time to talk about it? Because for 2 and something hours,
the Ella Kent in the room. Just move on.
Listen. Here's the thing. I watch Kent, and I'm sitting there praying, man, this guy needs to stop because. Enough. I get it. You're the praying mantis. You inserted the poison in him. And now we got to wait for the poison to be dealt. And it's a slow death. I understood the analogy the first time. It's happening. And we're only in episode 2. So for me, I'm like, Kent, are you going to make it out of this week, Kent? I don't know. But here's the thing. I didn't want Kent to leave. Like the minute I saw him in episode 1, I was like, this man cannot leave. I don't want Miles to leave, who he's pinning it on. I don't want Kent to leave. He's adding drama. Then he sold out his own story for seemingly no reason at Tribal.
No, there has to be. I've come here to ask you, what is the possible utility of this? You tell me, because I really try. You know, I'm trying to find. I try to understand why players do things. I just don't understand from like the edit and like it's me. So you explain to me what
Okay.
any human being could gain from this.
Okay, I got it. I figured it out. So
Please.
we're at tribal, right? And we've got we've got Rich's name out there, Indy's name is now out there, and this is very much them talking about their stuff. Clearly Indy's talking about, what the women were saying. You know who's not being talked about? Kent. So what does Kent do? Hey, it's me. Remember me? Yeah, so I decided to put the hat in the fire and blame it on Miles for no reason. But okay, so now the cameras are on me. Good. Let's keep it that way. It felt, Shannon, it really felt like he inserted himself for no reason. Like maybe I missed something. I'm on vacation. Maybe I've had one too many Victoria bitters, okay? But to me, it just felt like, oh, my name has not come up recently enough. Let's put myself on the map. Like, I don't know. It made no sense logically, because he was like, well, let me tell you what happened. As early as yesterday, and it's not like, Shannon, he said it like it was in a confession. It's not like he said, well,
no, I don't think he knows what the confessionals are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was giving the confessional to AJ at one point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about the praying mantis. He was doing that. Yeah.
He was like, I burnt my buddy's hat to stick it on Miles. Like, why? Why would you volunteer that? That's something you take to the reunion or to the grave.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly my point. But I have so many things. The first one is, there was a lot of dialogue and a lot of discourse a couple of years back, mostly around the new era and around the sob stories and everything. And I just feel like I don't know that we got to. This is really heartbreaking. Like, he can have anything he wants, but not Survivor. And like, I don't know if that made you tear up, but I was just like, this is sad. That this is like, he can have anything except this. Like, I feel for him. That's the first thing. The second thing is like the hat. I mean, even doing it obviously was just like, last episode I was like, well, he's rich. There is actually a different Rich who is rich, but he is very wealthy. So I'm like, well, he's playing with house money being his own.
Well,
I'm because the thing is, like, now he's like cleared Miles. Like, now I actually think Miles should use this because interestingly, yes, and interestingly as well, on the dynamics of this tribe, the guys, even including seemingly Max, who to be fair is a prankster and he got pranked. I believe me, I note that. But like, interestingly, the guys were like, wow, oh my God. And I thought it was Miles, and they were kind of laughing. And the girls were like, that's unhinged and mean. And if I were Miles, I would be like, I was like completely like targeted for no reason. And if I were the girls, I'd be like, yeah, shame Miles. And I would then bring Miles in and definitely target like a Kent or target anyone. And I think Miles should use that socially. Because I think the thing for me is, I don't know if it's my bias because I like Miles, but I think in the Rich Miles debate, as much as I see like everyone kind of loading up on Miles from like a cohesion point of view, I was just like, poor Miles, like he seems to be doing the work. Like I get, and he's been putting people off socially, and they say he has low EQ, and the montages seem to back that up. But like, he for the girls, like he's wanted to get out the big guys. Like he seems like a good, fair ally for them. Like I feel like they should be bringing Miles in. We've seen he's connected with Laura. I really feel like that's the way to go. So even like before this, I was like, poor Miles, the worst thing you could say about him is that a crazy man is saying he maybe burned a hat with literally zero evidence. And now we know that he's just been targeted for no reason. And I think that this will be very good for Miles, actually.
Oh, absolutely. In the battle of Rich Kent versus poor Miles is going to pull ahead. Watch this.
Right, but not Rich and Kent. Rich. No. It's very hard when there's such a rich man and a Rich on the same
No, wealthy Kent, not Rich and Kent. Yeah.
Yes.
So here's the thing. It was a very good confessional when Kent's talking about how, I can get anything I want in life. I can buy anything. I can't buy this. And I was like, okay, that's powerful. That's a good endorsement for the show, that there's literally something money can't buy. You got to get there to do it. But then have a little wherewithal to realize, okay, you're here, you're ready. You burned one dude's hat to pin it on the one person on this beach alongside you, who is a huge fan of this show, who's also getting his one shot to be here. And then again, being a villain's fine. I'm not saying he should have understood, like, oh, poor Miles. No. But then when they're at tribal and he says all this and he's like, don't worry, he's gonna get an even better hat, not that cheap plastic stuff he had. I'm getting him a better one. I was gobsmacked because it's like, oh yeah, I burned that thing. I burned it good, but I'm giving him a better one. So all of you brokies need to pipe down. Shannon.
Yeah. Also, will the hat be helpful to him after, God forbid, the next 40-something days of sunburn? I know I already went on the sun safety rant yesterday, but I would not be my mother's daughter if I didn't reiterate. We don't play around in Australia, even though they're in Samoa, about hats and about sun safety. Kent.
They made him a crown hat. He's fine.
That did not have necessarily the same amount of sun protection. You could tell it didn't. It didn't go. The brim didn't go out nearly as far. I mean, it was looked good. It was cool.
You're right. There's not enough brim there for sure. Yeah, I forget your hat. I don't want a brand new hat after the game.
Yeah. And also, you're not allowed to offer that. You're not allowed to offer to buy people things, even just a hat. So let's look into the rules of even the fact that Max was like, enough about the hat made me laugh.
Yeah.
Because I was like, where are we? What is happening right now? The fact that this has happened. Like I can't like doing it, but then to out it at the first. You could tell he was just excited about it. It was like no one at all. Absolutely nobody. And he was like, I burnt the hat.
Yeah, this was a moment of I've done something that is a pretty devious move in Survivor, and it's eating me alive that no one knows about it. I kind of want everyone to know about it. And from henceforth, we can call this move serving Kent. You can say that that's what you're doing when you have a secret that you immediately put out there because you can't help yourself and you want everyone to know. That's serving Kent. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Book it.
It's like you send that beam. It's like just a picture of Kent. It's like, if I've sent you this, I burnt your hat. Or if I sent you this, I'm telling a secret just because I can't hold it in anymore. Because they say that about like idols. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. If I send you this, I've done something devious and you're gonna find out about it soon.
Yeah.
If you send a photo of Nash, it's I have an idol. Okay.
Yeah.
I have an idol, and now you know I have an idol.
Well, I think that people often say that people out idols just out of sheer like excitement. Like I just want to talk about it. That's what confessionals are for. Anyway, I don't think people understand the processes of what's going on here. But I will say what's interesting is it feels like Kent is actually like close to Max. Like in the episode before, it felt like he did put it on Miles, but he was also angry at Max for the initial reward challenge. And then I went back to watch that because he seems fine with Max. I was like, did this evolve? It is possible that the Max stuff was a Frankenbite. Like, I really try and look out for that in Australian Survivor. But look, Kent's name wasn't out there. And that's probably in all of this the craziest part of the episode.
To me, it's that. It's Kent now kind of just threw himself out into the mix. He would have been okay, I think. And, they take Indy out. I think Miles is someone who could have easily been going out next anyway. But Kent kind of pushed himself up in front of the line now. So we'll see how it goes.
That is true.
And yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You remember last season, Shannon, when we had a very symmetrical journeys happening on both tribes for a little bit? I'm seeing some similarities here as well in both tribes.
Which is craziness.
Just a tad. I can't believe this is happening.
Do you know what I see the similarity? I see the similarity to the first Brains and Brawns, but the tribes swapped because we had a Brawn tribe that was really chaotic, but kind of like in this women-run gender war. Brains now. And then the Brains tribe had the Nash/George like wearing an idol and just like offsetting everything. So I think that's where we're at. I feel like everyone else I want to talk to, I probably talked to around the Chizzy, but is there like anything else that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is on the Brawn tribe, but Zen also confessing to flipping.
Right. Actually,
yeah. What did you think about
good
that?
From Zen. I actually thought this is what I'm saying. I might give a Chizzy point because Zen, I felt like, I mean, he did flip, right? Like, and I think that I've seen it attempted and done hilariously. I think back to like Lockie in part of the merge of 2017, and they were like, "Who
Mhm.
flipped?" And he just kept like shrugging. I think it's
Yeah, yeah,
really hard,
yeah.
even in an interview now, like 11-person tribe, to like hide that. I think he copped to it, and to even to Nash's credit, which is words I never thought I'd form in an order. He was like, I thought that and yesterday I was like, he's gonna need Zen, and I bet he just rebuffs him out of anger. But he seemed to make up with Zen. I feel like Zen actually still has him where he wants him, which is like Zen, to his credit, still wants to go after Nash, which I credit and think is the right move. But has,
Mhm.
I think, like made good with him, kind of owned up to it, and they both have like sat okay with that, so that he could just like take Nash out in the future. So I'm actually okay with how Zen did that.
Yeah, I feel like for Zen, I mean, obviously Nash lost so much, but still got Candy out last round. But I think that it was also like, well, his idol's gone. I think he loses a lot of the connections he has moving forward. So I feel like for Zen, it's kind of a nice spot to be in where what's Nash going to do? Not work with him, target Zen. That's not going to work out for him. He needs Zen if he wants to have any shot moving forward. And also for Zen, if he wants Nash out, the good news is there's a lot of people that are willing to jump on board. So it's not
Yeah.
bad at all. I felt like Nash kind of very much, in the Godfather position of, well, I know you didn't vote Candy, so who'd you vote for? Where did you go? It was very inquisitive. And I mean, credit to Zen, he handled it in Zen-like manner. So
Yeah.
it worked out.
Look, they both exceeded my expectations. Maybe those expectations came in low, but like, yeah, all that stuff is true of Nash. But even the fact that Nash was like trying to like break bread with Zen, I was like, this is already more credit than I gave him. So that was the only thing we got from Braun, because the worst case scenario on Australian Survivor is to win reward and then lose immunity, because, well, no, the opposite. That's why Brains did. They got all of the screen time. Braun lose
Yeah.
rewards. We don't even get the reward element with the decision, and then they win immunity, so we don't go back there. What did you think of this fish v fish? Like literally, like teach a man a fish, give him a fish. It's that exact problem,
Yeah.
but in reward.
Well, that was a big ass fish that they gave up. When I saw that, I was like, you could eat for a couple of days. Like, that could be an option. But
Can
no, I
you?
mean,
From like
I
a
think,
food safety, I mean, sun safety and food safety. How good is that fish out there with no fridge? I don't know. I
listen,
don't
it's
eat fish.
this a 47-day game. I think getting the fishing equipment is the better move, even if you're eating less fish a day. That big fish would make for a good feast right now, but then it'll be gone by tomorrow, maybe midday, if
Yeah,
that.
and also like it's day 5. Like get over it. I like I say here as I like from my couch, but still, I think that this was really good for Kaylin. I know I'm kind of getting into where I'm thinking from a Chizzy perspective. I actually thought Kaylin was good through this whole episode. We get like the
Huge up for
Kaylin's
Kalen.
bar. Yeah, like we see his social game. We see how he's like trying to be underestimated. We get that he, I think, is making the right decision. Not only making the right decision on the fishing gear, but then immediately making good of getting fish.
Yes.
Like at that point, you can't. Nash has been putting his hand up a lot in challenges and then screwing up the challenge. Like if you're gonna set yourself a task, you need to make good on it. Kaylin has done that.
Mhm.
And then another thing I thought was great was that he clearly has a connection with Miles to go to him, tell him about his name. And Miles cares enough about Kaylin to be really thankful and not blow up his spot. So that's a social connection we talk about when we're like giving people information in a way that will actually serve them, but not like, get you voted out of the game.
Kaylin is somebody who I feel like this story is going to be exciting moving forward. I'm keen to see how he navigates this tribe that can be either messy or like there's a lot of clicks already forming and locking in. So it is interesting to see where he navigates these waters moving forward. I think the connection with Miles is going to pay dividends, and I'm very curious to see what he does with that. But listen, I also had him severely underestimated, and was very happy to see what I saw this week, or this episode rather.
Yeah. Well, he is like, he's on the Brains tribe. He's Kaylin amazing. Like he's annoyingly perfect. So I'm sure he's got it all worked out. Let's talk about it on the Chizzy, I think. Take it away, Jacob Sager Weinstein and MC Color.
1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's getting kind of chizzy. 3, 2, 1.
All right, we have spoken about this now. We spoke about these people, so I'll go up 1, 2, 3, which I don't usually do. But I was going to give the 1 point to Zen for that reason, for recovering well. It's very hard to give Chizzy points on these tribes where it's like, even with the women, like I think they win out. I think they come back and they, get it together. But like, super unfortunate episode where they're all called out in different ways. Oh, another thing I wanted to say when I'm thinking about that, actually, in the middle of my Chizzy points, why did Ali cop to it so quickly? Like the, do you have cop to it? Is that Australian?
No,
Admit
like
it. You
cop
don't
to it as
divulge
in
it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
cop,
yeah, like
like
you cop to
you
that.
cop to
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, that's not straight. Yeah, because I feel like she admitted. I feel like I just would have been like, we have no idea what Indy's talking about. Like Max immediately didn't believe it. I felt like they were way too much
Right.
like she gave the information. And then Indy's like, I did nothing wrong because the information was true. It was like that was the problem. You divulged all this true information. That was she didn't see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
The
felt like
point
Ali
of
was way
scrutiny
too quick.
here, the point of scrutiny here wasn't that you've
Whether it
given
was
false
true. Yeah.
information. It's that
Yeah.
you gave that
Yeah,
information.
exactly. That's almost worse. She's like, I didn't lie about you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you were a huge leak. Like, don't do that.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough spot to be in, Shannon, right? It's like if you and I gossip about Chappelle, right?
Let's
And
do
then
it.
the
Right now,
next
what do you think
and
about
then
him?
listen, first of all, my guy Chappelle, can you believe it? We're in the chizzy portion of the podcast. We never thought this day would come, man. Look at us.
I'll take it away so quickly, you don't even know. Like
But it's like
that.
if you and I sat there and chat talk this guy, right?
Yeah, let's do
And
it.
then the next day, okay, relax. We're not shit talking him.
Why even
and
offer if you don't want to do it?
because I'm using it to explain why while I may not agree with what Ali did, I understand it. It's like we shit talked, and then then I ran it back to Chappelle the next day and was like, listen, man, yeah, Shannon was saying some sideways stuff about you. And then we're being confronted by Chappelle. Part of you is gonna want to just cop to it because it's easier than deny till you die. You know what I mean? Take it to the grave. Take it to the grave is fine, but when it's in the beginning of the game, it's almost like I feel like Ali may have felt like, you know what, whatever. Let's hit a reset. She's probably gonna go home anyway. Doesn't matter. We can move on from this.
But it's funny because it's the exact opposite thing I just said about Zen, where I'm like, it's really hard to hide your votes. But this isn't specific votes. And I think as well, like Indy comes in with just no social capital. Like if you can bury someone with like, I have no idea what you're talking about, it's probably Indy, who people don't even want to believe. I think it would have been an aggressive move. It's kind of like in, we play all these social strategy games at the point where you're like, I'm not that role, you're that role. Game's kind of lost. And that's like
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like a really last ditch effort, but it just felt like Indy, like they did, like even without anything, Max was like, I don't believe her. Like I just felt like if you could bury anyone, it might be her.
Well, I feel like also all you would need to say the next day is, yeah, we kind of just threw Indy some feeder nonsense information to
Yeah.
see who would get it, and she immediately gave it up. So yeah, she said that, but that was all just a test. And people will be like, you know what? That makes sense. I understand that. Let's move on. So
Yeah.
I think it's early
Or you
enough that
could
you
say-
might be able to get away with it.
Yeah, or you could say like, oh, Indy said it. Like, yeah, your name was brought up, but Indy said we were never gonna do it. But there were other
And we
ways
were
to
like,
go other than just like, the
let's go
truth.
that way. And then we were never going to vote that way. Like there's so many ways in the beginning, especially if you've built those social relationships with the people that you were talking about, you can get away with it a little bit.
Yeah, especially because Ali was like, here's what happened. We told
Mm-hmm.
her Rich. Like she like especially went out of her way to like I feel like you could be like, look, we were having a conversation and like a lot of names were brought up, just like we were just talking about people. Like I feel like there are ways you could have at least blurred it than the way that she was like, here's a play-by-play on exactly what we did. Okay, let's just come clean right now in the group therapy session where they gave us all truth serum before. That was like a weird thing that we were all in the tent before and they just injected us with that. Yeah. So anyway, this is a massive like side note to the fact that I was giving Chizzy points. I gave a point to Zen for the reasons. I gave 2 points to Kaylin for the many reasons given before. And the 3 points I want to give to Karen. She was called out. She had to fight with India Tribal, but she was so justified. Like she was so correct. And I didn't know who Indy was saying was the leader. Like it sounded like she was saying Ali, but it is possible it was cut around and like she meant Karen because that's who she was having the conversation about Rich about. And it is possible that Karen's being thrown under the bus in that way. At the same time, I still want to give it to a woman because I feel like the Coven will still recover to be in power. And I feel like having given 6 points to Laura in the last episode, like Laura wants to be, the nexus in the middle of everything in the web. And instead, I feel like, she had allies to juggle, but it got way too dicey too quickly. And Karen, I feel like, has a lot of the power. I felt like she was much more on the same page with like Ali and Zara. And I don't necessarily know, even so, if Laura is so much in the middle. I think that Karen has a lot of that. So I just kind of want to reward that, as much as this episode kind of sucked across the board for pretty much everyone in this tribe, not Kaylin. He did very well, but like it was chaotic. I don't think she comes out unscathed. I think she will recover, and I just want to like credit the power there that I think she has.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like all the reasonings you gave. I'm almost trying to because I'll tell you this much: my one pointer is different than yours. It's just a matter of where I go if I just co-sign 2 and 3 with you, because I feel very strongly about the points you've raised. So you're welcome. Let me go ahead and tell you who's getting my 1 point here. This is somebody who within a 24-hour span, within an episode cycle span here, fumbles a challenge hard, loses his hat in the fire, then coming in the next episode, has figured out who the culprit is behind his hat. Someone literally confessed to his face, has been promised a brand new hat on the outside, brand expensive hat, and receives no votes despite fumbling that first immunity or like first mess up, first challenge or whatever. Yeah. Give him the point. Give him 1 point to this guy.
Okay.
Give him
point for Max. Okay. He has no hat, but he has a point. He now officially has more points than he does hats.
Exactly.
1 point. Yeah.
And then part of me, like I said, I'm looking at the 2 and the 3. I could go that way. Remind me who's in the Victoria bidders again?
It was Logan and Laura, like they're number 1 with each other. And then Rich.
I feel like part of me is feeling good about Logan's positioning in all this, because she's not the one.
Laura.
Yeah. She's kind of hidden on both ends, but not enough to get a point here. I think that Kaylin, you've already highlighted very well why. I think the show wanted you to also be like, hey, keep an eye on this man. He's doing some sneaky stuff and it's good. And I think the bond with Miles will go a long way. So yeah, I'll co-sign 2 and 3 with you. We'll have different ones. I think for my first ever official Chizzy, that's good.
Wait, so what you're doing, Logan? Because I did Karen.
No, I'm not doing Logan. I said,
you just wanted honorable mention.
It was like honorable mentioning. I was honorable mentioning.
But you're giving 3 to Karen?
Yes.
Are you not concerned about like the issues? I still give it 3 points, but like, are you concerned about like the fact that she was like, fighting with Indy and she was right on every point?
Here's my issue.
No notes, but yeah.
Yeah. No, my issue is that I don't want to give 3 to Kaylin. I just don't think Kaylin gets a 3 for me.
To give it to a woman,
and it's very tough. It's like, who am I giving my 3 to? Is a lot of points. And I can't divvy them up and dish everyone ones. That doesn't work. It wouldn't work like that. That's not
what we do.
Yeah. And it's so early. So I'm like, if I feel like someone can get some points here that I can feel good about parting with, I'll give them that. Because I know by like episode 10, we're going to be splitting hairs and it's going to be a massacre to give someone a 2 that deserves a 3 and a 1 that deserves a 1. So it's the first time. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we did pretty well. I'm just like reckoning with the fact that someone in the span of 5 days burned the hat and then blamed it on Miles, and then immediately, because he voted for Miles, so he thinks Miles is still going home that night after like the main issue with Miles. Well, I guess like again there were the social issues, but like, so he thinks that they're just gonna then vote him out. Like that's the kind of thing where you like, do you vote him out? Like, still don't do this, but I guess vote him out first and then come back to the beach. Like I really did it. I mean, you're still gone next, but at least Miles went home. Like what?
I mean, if somehow now Miles goes home before Kent, I'm going to be flabbergasted, because I think based on the disdain people had for what Kent did, I think, Kent, you should realize now everyone's like, oh, all this beef, all this animosity I was holding towards Miles, I'm holding towards you now, Kent. You are the Miles in disguise, Kent. So the idea that Kent is now going back to the beach with Max and Miles both still there and the truth out, I just don't know how this man thinks he's going to navigate through this. And again, if he does, I'm going to be flabbergasted if he outlasts Miles now.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but maybe some other chaotic thing will happen that will save Kent. But at the end of the day, that man just admitted to burning a hat and no one asked. Not one person.
Not one.
I wasn't even talking about him. Anyway, that's that. Pooya, this was a lot of fun. Do you have what Shannon's angel do you want to be? Because Chappelle already called Lucy Liu.
Let me look this up. Why are we your
Cameron
angels
Diaz or
again?
Drew Barrymore? Because there's 3 of you. And what do I mean?
Give me Cameron Diaz. I'm going Cameron Diaz
Okay,
always.
cool. All right, that's fine.
Despite
Yeah,
do we not share the same birthday as Drew Barrymore though?
we do, I think, and George Washington.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
me, you,
But
George
no,
Washington.
I want Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, you guys want to be the angels. I wanted to call you Shannon's recap bitches.
Yeah, which I took offense to.
Yeah, which is still the name of the WhatsApp group, which is great.
Yeah, which because Mike, your little sheep, made the group, and you were like, name it this, and he was like, at once, Shannon. Yes,
He
you got
immediately
this.
did, which was great. Hey, you don't talk about our Drew Barrymore that way, okay? She shares our birthday.
Listen, if I get to pick one person I can happily share my birthday with, that's you. I don't have room for more people to be happy about, okay? Not everyone can have 22nd of February and me be okay with it.
Yeah, the best of the dates. Next week, this week. It's our birth week.
It is. Get excited.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. Pooya, where can the people find all the things that you're doing?
Well, the people can find me on all socials at Pooyaism. Find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I am when I'm not podcasting. But right now, there's a lot of podcasting going on, Shannon. Aside from this new journey with you, I am talking The Traders every week with Rob. We're still talking the US season. So you can find that, find the feedback show, the exits. We do all of it in one place. It's the We Know Traders feed. And a brand new season of 90 Day Fiancé is here. So I'm going to be talking about that as well and having fun doing it.
Great. Well, this is all on WeKnowGlobalSurvivor.com, all on YouTube, all on video if anyone's just been listening to it. Tomorrow, Mike will be here to finish up the week of recaps. Then we have Rob on the feedback show, and we have one weekly exit interview. People have been asking, what are we going to do about feedback? I think I'm just going to be posting on Twitter, Blue Sky, maybe Instagram stories around like question threads. I think that's just the easiest way to do it every week for the feedback show. But this has been a lot of fun. This is already, I'm really, really loving, because there's been so much to talk about in the first week. And the fact that like I come off the episode and know I can immediately talk about it, I feel like I'm already really enjoying that. So it's going great. Pooya, thank you for being here all season, including today.
I'm so happy. I can't wait to see where this journey takes us. And we'll find out. We'll get the answer to the question. Is Shannon going to be this happy that I'm here every week? Or am I going to run out my welcome? We'll find out together.
This is a fun question about who runs out their welcome first. That's the challenge. But it's worth
you and I talk traders. We'll be okay. We've talked traders New Zealand before. We'll be fine.
100%. Well, stay on the line after this so we can bitch about Chappelle. But thank you so much. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone for listening. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.